Hey, welcome to Weld.com, home of TIG Time. Hi, I'm Mr. TIG, and we're on site here at Spanky's Clubhouse / car restoration. And every once in a while we get projects other than cars in here. People come by and see us here, and today was no exception. And I've got a project here. I just wanted to share it with you because it's kind of cool. The guy brought this to me, and I'm trying to figure it out in the beginning. And then he said, here's what I've got. I've got a stainless steel plate, and the very back of it, it's got reinforcement. This is designed to go on top of my portable fireplace. I'm talking about an outside fireplace, like a very large pit. And he says, but the problem is it doesn't fit my pit just right. It's too big. So, came here and says, I know it's 3000 series, probably a 304 stainless steel. So he says, I just can't cut it. I tried with a hacksaw, doesn't even touch it. He says, I don't want to use an oxyacetylene because it's just so ugly when you cut. He says, do you guys happen to have a plasma cutter? And of course we do. He says, can you make a cut right here? He already drew the line. And he put a couple of dots here, and he says, can you cut the old handle off and weld it back in place? So I thought, man, what the heck, we'll do it. So we're here at the auto body shop, and we've got all kinds of tools, and got a plasma cutter, runs off 110. So we'll see if it'll cut it. It should. This plate, it's got bends on it. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So let me show you my technique and how to set up and how to make it very simple. So let me get my gear on. I'll join you in just a few minutes. Okay, now I got my safety gear on. When you're plasma cutting, it's a good idea to put gloves on because even though you can reach out there and cut, you know, if you get too close to it and try to pick it up later, you forget and you burn yourself. So, you know, get a good, you know, set of leather gloves. I got my Iron Cats here, and they're very flexible. So I use these for TIG welding too. But in plasma cutting, there are so many different types of machines out there. Just know that when you're 1/8 inch thick, stainless is a little bit tougher than steel to cut, but I'm going to need at least a 20 amp plasma cutter. So this machine is about a 25 amp plasma cutter. Running it on 115, I'm really going to be taxing it to be able to get that power out of it. So let's see what it'll do. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and get the air going. Pull the trigger, make sure everything's working right. This one has a pilot light, so when you pull the trigger, there's a slight hesitation, and then you'll see the pilot light. Okay, so I think everything's good to go. I don't have to wear my, you know, shade 9, 10, 11 hood. I can get by with just these shaded safety glasses. So just know that it's a little more comfortable. I don't have a lot of spatter going everywhere, so I just use the safety glasses instead of the full shield. And I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to cut off the handle, just so I can reuse that handle. One of the problems with plasma cutting is that you have to have good air, good clean air. So make sure you put a filter in line so you don't get water in there. It's what kills these torches more than anything. Also, if your machine is sputtering a little bit, if it cuts out, check and see if you've used up your air. If you don't have 80 psi in there, most of these machines run between 60 and 80 psi pressure. And if it drops below, there's a sensor in there that says, hey, don't run, shut off, protect yourself until we get more air buildup. So that's usually the #1 problem. And of course, you know, you can change the tips out, but that's, you know, you don't have to do it that frequently. Okay, so this is a 1/2 inch bar. I had to come in from both sides. Again, I'm running off of household current, so you just may have to take a couple of different tacks in getting your cut. So this is, I'm going to save this portion of it, and I'll clean it up in a little bit before I put it in TIG weld. So let's take a look at this. This person put a line on here, said I'd like to cut it right there, and I could freehand it. It would be easy to freehand, and when I say freehand, I can just sit here and cut. But the reality is, you can take a 2x4, you can take a chunk of steel and make a guide. You know, so I'm going to set this thing here. I'm going to set my torch up to where it's like a steady rest. Okay, and I'll end up clamping it in position. So let me do that. I may have to readjust a couple of times, no big deal. Okay, because this is 1/8 inch stainless steel, I'm going to do a vertical up cut. And I'm just going to cut about 1/2 inch, then I'm going to reposition myself for the long run. Okay, I'm going to reposition, I'm going to set myself, and then I'm going to make, it's probably 1.5 foot cut. Okay, here we go. So, what you probably notice is I've got a ground clamp here, and it's important to get that ground clamp as close to where you're cutting as possible. Yes, you can set it way back here, but if you want the best performance out of the machine, no hesitations, get it real close. Bet you thought this was going to drop off with my clamp on it. Stopped a little bit early. Okay, I've only got about a 1 inch area to cut or less. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and change my clamp, put it right here, and finish my cut. Okay. Okay, you can look at it, and versus oxyacetylene cutting, this is pretty clean. So I'm gonna hit this with the grinder and polish it up, and knock off the edges. I'm gonna do the same thing with this handle before I put it on, and then I'm gonna weld the handle on. So I'll join you in just a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to weld the handle on here as soon as I deburr this. And when I say deburr, I've got a flapper wheel here. I think I've got 60 grit on it. So anyway, just a 4-inch grinder with a flapper wheel. It's rough right now, so if somebody walked up and bumped themselves, it'd cut you. So let's see what I can get done with this flapper wheel. Okay, there's still a burr on the underneath side, so I'm going to flip this thing over, make sure I get all that, because you never know who's going to be carrying this. Okay, well, I checked the burrs, first of all, with my gloves on, just to run my hands across there and see if there's any snags at all. And there aren't any. I picked them all up. And then the next thing I do is I'll do it barehanded, very lightly. Just be real careful. You may catch a burr. it doesn't feel good, and it'll slice you wide open. So anyway, this is looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my TIG machine and set up and weld this handle in place. Again, I'm going to use a 308 stainless filler material. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, now I've got this plate all cut out. I've got it polished off. I've deburred it. There's no rough edges on here. I took this bar just over to a pestle grinder just to knock off all the, all the kerf and all the slag that was on there from plasma cutting, which wasn't a lot. So cleaned it up. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe everything down one time just before I weld it. My little easy wipe. Again, this is isopropyl alcohol, so it can be used on just about any metal. Go ahead and wipe it down. I want to make sure I'm wiping this plate down, but I don't want to lose my marks. The owner of this went to great lengths to put these two little dots on here for me. And I want to be dimensionally perfect. Okay. And around the back and out of here. Okay, now, I don't have a perfectly flat surface to work with. Again, this is stainless, and I'm going to use a 308L stainless filler material. But I got to get it tacked first, so I'm going to line it up on these dots and use any kind of an instrument you can, just as a kind of a helping hand. So I got it sitting there. I'm going to put a tack on this side. It's probably going to try to lift on me. Once it does, I'll tap it back down. I'll go to the other side and tack. So let's get that done first. Okay, I got one good tack in there right now, and it did lift up. So just do a visual alignment. Now's the time to make any changes. One tack, I can move this thing around pretty good. There we go. All right, I'm going to put a second tack on here. Okay, I got the second tack on there. Yeah, we just have to look at alignment. There's not much more you can do, maybe tweak it a little bit. Tap over. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'll tack on this side, and it'll pull everything over pretty even. Okay, now it's tacked pretty heavy duty right now. I can go in any direction, left to right, right to left. I'm just going to reach in there and go as far as I can. You can't typically go very far before you get out of position, but I've got my special TIG torch here with my new CK perfect handle slide there. Look at that. Anyway, works great. I'll go ahead and finish this up, and then I'll join you guys in a few minutes. Okay, well, I finished welding this. It welded up pretty good. I hit a couple of spots so I didn't get all the oxides off, but it still welded up nicely. And again, I like to use my pistol grip when I'm just doing little out of position welds like this. And normally I use a foot control, as you well know. But anyway, this works well. And I do want to reiterate, if you get one of these pistol grips, I recommend the flex head torch because I'm constantly changing the angle of the torch to get in the spots that I need. So, and I had to manipulate around to get this. So this is, again, stainless steel. It's ready to go. I'll just tell you the guy that owns this, his name is John. But John, I just want to tell you, I've got to test this to make sure it works okay before I hand it back over to you. So I just want to do a shout out to you. And here it is. It's ready to go. It's a lot shorter. It's going to fit your pit perfect, and it just might fit mine as well. So thank you for watching TIG Time. I'm Mr. TIG. To stay up with the latest TIG welding technology and education, subscribe by clicking the button below.